Show starts with Kang Jae-won sadly looking out the window from her hospital bed. She's sick with cancer. Her friend Soo-min tries to comfort her and encourages her not to give up. Jae-won confesses she believes her husband is cheating on her. While getting a blood transfusion, we find out Jae-won has been told she has 6 to 12 months to live. In a flashback to her wedding, Soo-min catches the bouquet. Jae-won grew up with her dad, who passed away. After getting married, her mother-in-law becomes bossy and criticizes her for not having kids. Min-won, Jae-won's husband, quits his job and neglects her. Amidst all this, she's diagnosed with stage 4 stomach cancer. Despite her illness, her husband and mother-in-law mistreat her. Jae-won confides in another hospital patient about her friend, who's excellent at work and has always been there for her. Turns out, this good friend is the one having an affair with her husband. Suddenly, Jae-won is informed that her guardian needs to pay the hospital bill or she can't stay. Min-won doesn't answer the phone. Taking a taxi home, the driver takes her on a different route, surrounded by blooming cherry blossom trees. He suggests she can choose a different path, returns some of her money, and calls it a blessing from her father. Struggling, Jae-won reaches home only to find Soo-min in bed with Min-won. She overhears Min-won admitting he knew Jae-won was getting sick and deliberately bought cancer insurance. Furious, Jae-won confronts them, throwing things and threatening to report them for insurance fraud. In a struggle with Soo-min, Min-won grabs Jae-won and pushes her into a glass table. Jae-won's head hits the glass, and this sad event happens on April 12, 2023, the day Jae-won dies. The scene changes, and suddenly Jae-won is in an office facing Min-won. She instinctively tries to fight him, but is stopped by a colleague. Confused, she runs out into the street and realizes it's the year 2013. Her colleague gives her his jacket, some money, and even groceries to help her get home. Wondering if it's all a dream, Jae-won realizes it can't be because she knows her colleague, General Manager Yoo Jae-hyuk, will become the CEO and is the grandson of her company's founder. Knowing this means her memories of 2023 will be real. When she takes out the cash Jae-hyuk gave her, she finds a note with a small heart drawn on it, just like her father did years ago on a currency note. Jae-won realizes the taxi driver was actually her father, in spirit. Min-won comes home and they go out for dinner. He questions Jae-won about her earlier mention of being pregnant, expressing his dislike for having kids. Jae-won clarifies it's just gastritis. As the irony of their future hits her, she suggests they break up. He physically hurts her, and she calls for help. They end up at a police station, but the police are not helpful. Jae-won remembers that Min-won strongly opposed the idea of breaking up. Back at home, Jae-won sees her low bank balance, mostly because of Min-won's actions. She gets an idea, invest in successful companies to gain financial independence for him. While researching stocks, she comes across Jae-hyuk again and thanks him by buying him a meal for helping her during a tough time at the office. She discovers Jae-hyuk is even more good-looking and thoughtful than she thought. Soo-min calls, but Jae-won ignores it. Suddenly, she notices Jae-hyuk has a scar on his arm from their previous scuffle, and it's the same shape as the scar she had in her past life. Before parting ways, he encourages her not to give up work for marriage, recognizing her talent. At home, Jae-won recalls her dreams before marriage. The next day at work, she avoids Min-won and invests in Rojental, a company he successfully invested in their previous life. Soo-min approaches Jae-won with affection, but Jae-won finds it difficult to reciprocate. Her boss criticizes her new proposal on meal kits, but Jae-won remembers that he accepted the same proposal in the future when sent by Soo-min. Later, Jae-won meets Yang Ji-ran, a good employee never promoted by the boss. Ji-ran is called away, leaving her coffee cup on the table's edge. Jae-won remembers getting hurt while saving the cup in the past, but avoids injuring her knee this time, feeling happy about it. However, while avoiding Min-won, she ends up getting hurt in the same spot. She wonders if her fate is truly unavoidable. Min-won tries to make things right with Jae-won. To express his love, he sells his Rojental shares to repay the money she borrowed from him. However, he keeps his investments in TKU, a company that Jae-won knows will fail. She figures out that he sold the shares she bought. Similarly, she doesn't get the scar on her hand like before, but Jae-hyuk ends up with the scar. Jae-won understands that certain things will happen, but they could happen to someone else. At that moment, Soo-min walks by and Jae-won asks her to throw out some trash. She decides to have Soo-min marry her husband and take on her unfortunate destiny. Kyu-won is at a coffee shop watching someone steal another person's coffee. She thinks someone should steal her destiny. At work, she decides that this someone should be Soo-min. They get in the elevator, and Jae-hyuk suddenly joins them. When the manager makes rude comments about women, Jae-hyuk stops him. Jae-hyuk asks Jae-won to step aside and tells her to enjoy her coffee peacefully. She shows him the note her father gave her and says she's not quitting the company, she's going to work harder. Ji-hyuk is about to make weekend plans with her when Sumin arrives, saying they have plans to go to a BBQ restaurant. In his office, Ji-hyuk looks up Jae-won's high school, calls the BBQ restaurant, and confirms the high school reunion on the same day. He calls a friend named Dong-suk and asks him to find someone. Jae-won gives Jae-hyuk pain relief pills for his injury. Later, Min-won calls Jae-won aside, and she pretends to want to get back together with him. Just before anything happens, Ju-ran enters. As they leave, Ju-ran advises Jae-won against unwanted physical intimacy with men. At lunch, Sumin wants Indian food, but Jae-won doesn't. In past life, Sumin tripped Jae-won in the cafeteria because she didn't get her way. This time, Jae-won avoids it and trips Sumin, accidentally bumping into Min-won. In the washroom, Jae-won helps a colleague named Hwa-yeon get a sanitary pad. Hwa-yeon admires Jae-won and joins them for lunch. Sumin offers to pay for Min-won's shirt, but he generously refuses. Meanwhile, Jae-hyuk goes to meet a chef named Bak Yeon-ho at a fancy restaurant. Teasing happens at the cafeteria table, but it only makes Jae-won and Hwa-yeon closer. When they leave, Sumin and Min-won are alone. They get pushed together in a crowded elevator, and Sumin starts flirting with him. In a meeting, manager Kim Ga-yeon gets upset when papers aren't stapled properly. Sumin sweet talks him into looking at her proposal. Later, Jae-won shows her proposal to Ju-ran. Sumin notices this. While grabbing a bite with Hwa-yeon, Jae-won shares about a high school reunion on the weekend. Hwa-yeon convinces her to go and meet her first love. Back at work, Jae-won asks Jae-hyuk if he wants her to work on the weekend. He tells her to prioritize her own plans first. Jae-won meets Ju-ran and tries to convince her to work on the proposal with her. Jae-won plans to resubmit the proposal, and when Ju-ran sees that Ga-yeon doesn't actually read proposals, she'll join her. Meanwhile, Sumin strategically waits outside the washroom to bump into manager Kim. She claims to have an idea that needs his help, and he falls for her flirting. Jae-won takes a risk and submits her proposal to Ga-yeon again. He doesn't realize it's the same one from before, proving Jae-won right. Later, Ju-ran agrees to work with Jae-won. Sumin watches them talking with Hwa-yeon and checks out Jae-won's meal kit proposal. Sumin has a meal with manager Jae-hyuk and flirts with him, convincing him to work on Jae-won's meal kit idea. Min-won is bawling with friends, describing Jae-won as boring but a perfect wife. Jae-won is still at work, feeling optimistic about her new life. She finds a box of earrings on her desk, a gift from Sumin for the reunion on the weekend. A flashback reveals Sumin lied to Jae-won about dining alone in the BBQ restaurant and forced her to attend the high school reunion, where she had an unpleasant encounter with her former bullies. This time, Jae-won doesn't want to go. In the present, both Sumin and Min-won text Jae-won that they are coming to her place. She decides to let them come and meet each other. Leaving work, Jae-hyuk sees Jae-won with the earrings and tells her they're fake. It turns out he said the same thing last time, but she dismissed it as a rude comment. Jae-won comes home to find Min-won already in the shower. Sumin changes her mind and goes home. Jae-won faces Min-won, who is ready to be intimate with her. Min-won is standing without clothes in front of Jae-won, who really doesn't want to be intimate with him. Luckily, a delivery guy from a chicken restaurant interrupts them, and Jae-won uses this chance to push Min-won out of the apartment. She calms him down with text messages and gets him to leave. Outside, Ji-hyuk is waiting with the delivery guy, revealing that he planned the whole thing. Meanwhile, the chef named Yeon-ho tells his colleague that he's going to a school reunion. His colleague is surprised because he usually avoids his first love who rejected him. He remembers Ji-hyuk telling him about the event. Back home, Ji-won wonders how to make herself look nice for the reunion. The day arrives and Sumin reaches the reunion, receiving a warm welcome. Others talk negatively about Jae-won. Someone mentions that Sumin used to like Park Min-won, and they assume Jae-won is pursuing Min-won on purpose. Jae-won finally arrives at the restaurant, stunning everyone with her dressed-up appearance. The scene goes back to the previous day. Jae-won agrees to meet Hwa-yeon for a bite. On the way, she sees the real version of the earrings Sumin gave her and realizes how different they are. A flashback shows Sumin praising Jae-won, throwing a fit when Jae-won doesn't have her favorite candy. Min-won joins them and gives Sumin the candy she wants. In the present, Hwa-yeon meets Jae-won and shows her an authentic pair of the same earrings. Hwa-yeon then reminds Jae-won of a drunken mistake involving Ji-hyuk. Jae-won recalls that the incident made her stop drinking for 5 years, but now she enjoys drinking with Hwa-yeon. She shares about being bullied, and Hwa-yeon encourages her to think about why it happened. Jae-won realizes she needs to go to the reunion and hear what the bullies say about her. Hyeon gives Jaewon a complete makeover, even cutting her hair short. Meanwhile, Minwon is at a campsite, shamelessly flirting with other girls. At night, Jaewon wakes up from a bad dream but finds comfort in Hyeon sleeping next to her. She receives a message from her manager saying she has to work on her proposal with Sumin. Sumin then calls asking Jaewon to redo her proposal. Jaewon firmly refuses and even tells Sumin to use polite language while speaking to her at work. After the call, we see that Sumin is having dinner with the manager, who cancels Jaewon's name on the printed proposal. The next day, Jaewon makes a grand entrance to the restaurant and pretends to be surprised by the reunion. Everyone is shocked by how beautiful she looks. Someone comments on her earrings and everyone sees Jaewon is wearing authentic ones while Sumin's are fake. It turns out there are different qualities of fake jewelry and Sumin's were just a better type of fake than the one she gave Jaewon. Jaewon's new friend, Hyeon, lent her the real earrings. Sumin is naturally upset about how things turned out. Jaewon goes to the washroom, and just like before, her bullies come in and talk about how Sumin is too kind to Jaewon. Yeji, one of the bullies, starts checking the stalls, but this time, instead of hiding, Jaewon steps out and makes herself known. She asks them why they treat her that way. They blame Jaewon for Sumin breaking up with Eunho and for taking Minwon from her. Jaewon proves them wrong and Eunho shows up just in time to confirm he never dated Sumin. At another place, Ji-hyuk appears to be arguing with his grandfather about not wanting to get married. He likes someone, but she doesn't like him back. On the way back, the grandfather tells his secretary to find out who the woman is. In a flashback, Ji-hyuk explains to Eunho about the misunderstanding at the reunion. In the present, Eunho confirms he never dated Sumin. He asks Jaewon why she did what she did, and in response, Jaewon runs out. Outside, Ji-hyuk sees her from his car. He also sees Eunho chasing her and confessing that he used to like her.